Hey guys, welcome back to video number 2 of this series. If you were with me when I created video number 1, you saw this American flag being created in Vectric VCarve Pro. And what we're going to do in this next video is we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to jump over to Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to show you how I take a raster graphic, such as a JPEG or a GIF, and convert it to a vector graphic. We're going to then take that vector graphic and we're going to bring it into this flag. And then in subsequent videos, we're going to do some toolpath operations, creation of some toolpaths, and then we're going to actually go out to the shop and we're going to cut the flag on a piece of wood. So it's going to be great. So getting started, this graphic that we're going to create is actually going to be the patch of the shoulder patch of the Arizona Department of Public Safety, their highway patrol. And we're going to end up placing that in the upper right portion of this flag. We also have a second graphic that we're going to put on this flag, and that's the actual shirt badge that a trooper wears on his uniform, and we're going to place that just to the lower left of the patch itself. I've already created the badge. It's a little complicated, and for me to demo that, this video would actually be several hours long, so I don't want to do that. Instead, I would rather just do the shoulder patch and show you how I do that. But we'll ultimately end up bringing both of them in here. Now, let me open up Adobe Illustrator and I'll show you what we got going so far. I'm going to open up, and all I've done so far is gone out and obtained this graphic and captured it using the snipping tool. And as you can see, there it is. Now, my intent in this video, again, like I explained in VCarve Pro, is not to show you every nuance of Adobe Illustrator. It's just too complicated of a program for me to do that. There's a lot of resources out there that you can use to go ahead and learn Adobe. There's hours upon hours of instruction. I've been using it for about 5 years now, and I seem like I'm just scratching the surface on that, and I forget more than I learn oftentimes. And I have to go out online myself and refresh my memory on things. So it is complicated, or it is a complicated program at times. Don't get frustrated with it. Stick with it, and you'll do fine. But just know that there is a learning curve to it. There's other vector-based drawing programs you can use. You don't have to use Adobe Illustrator for this stuff. There's, I think, CorelDRAW out there. There's Inkscape. I think Inkscape's even a free one, and there's a few others. You can find out what they are and choose what you prefer. Choose your poison, so to speak. So let's get started on this. And again, it's not a tutorial. It's just rather a demo of how I convert this over to a vector graphic that I'm going to use in my project. Now, before I begin, let me preface this by saying there's a number of ways that I can do this. Adobe Illustrator has what's called an image trace function, which essentially makes some of this easy. For basic rudimentary images, this may or may not work fine. I often find that image trace doesn't yield the results that I'm looking for. So I prefer personally to go in and do my graphics manually every time. I know I'm getting them perfect the way I like them. So with that said, let's get going. I'm going to go ahead and select that. It's on layer 1, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and give it some height just so I can have a little bit bigger of a graphic to work with. And let's go ahead and make it 100%. And we're going to use this as a base layer to do a tracing from. So let's reduce the opacity down to about 14. No, that's a little too low. I think 28% is good. Let's do it right there. And we'll go ahead and we'll lock this. Click off of it. We'll lock this layer so we don't mess with the positioning of it at all. And we'll go ahead and we'll create a new layer. And let's call this layer, just so we can keep everything straight, border. And we're just going to create a border of the state of Arizona along these yellow lines. So I'm going to start off real quickly, and I'm just going to make sure my colors are correct. And it's a 1-point line, that's fine. We're using the pen tools, all we're doing. Okay. Switch pens, and I'm going to come up to my curvature pen. And if you guys know anything at all about Arizona, you know that the left side of the border that I'm doing here is the Colorado River between Arizona and California. If you ever have a chance to go and visit Arizona, it's really a neat state. And I would encourage you to do so. Lots to do. So, and I apologize if there's parts of this where I get quiet and don't say anything. Just merely concentrating on what I'm doing. Okay. Come in here. Right click on that and just hit join. Join those two paths. I don't like that right there. Okay. And Adobe Illustrator is just so powerful. There's really a lot of versatility in getting into these points and just manipulating this any way that you want. And I just think that I need to go down. That looks pretty good. All right, now let's go down here. And let's join those 2 points. Let's grab this little handle here. Okay. Make sure this looks good overall for a border. And I think it does for the most part. Very good. Okay. Now we will do some, let's go ahead and lock that. And let's create a new layer. And let's call this interior lines / star. And what we'll go ahead and do on this layer, let's go back up to our pen tool. Actually, let's do our star first. Hold down Shift and Alt to get a symmetrical star. And just drag out how big you think you need it. And then release the Shift and Alt buttons, and then just position your star accordingly. And I can already see that I think I need to bring it up a little bit. So I'm going to hold down Shift. Come back, grab my selection tool, hold down Shift, and make it a little bit bigger. And just position it where I think I like it. And I want to bring it up a little more. Okay. So I've got the star created. come up here and grab my pen tool. And I'm just going to get as close to that line where I think I need to be. Same thing over there. I know it's going to hook up with this right border. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this with all of these lines, which I believe is the sun rays of Arizona, the Arizona state flag. And if you've ever been to Arizona, you know what I'm talking about as far as their sunrises and sunsets. They are just gorgeous. Grab my selection tool again, and let's make that 2.5 in width. Oops. Let's see here. Should do it. Why is it not doing that? There we go. Okay. Do I like 2.5? This is where you have to decide when you're doing your design, because you're going to create some borders of these paths here, and you need to decide the thickness of your lines at this stage of the game before you go any further. So I think maybe 2.25 would be a better choice. Whoops, let me select it first. Make it 2.25. And that just made it a little bit smaller, a touch smaller, which is fine. And then this one, let's grab that border, and you can see the thickness of this yellow border is a lot thicker, so we're going to have to make the weight of that border quite a bit larger than the 1 point that it was. And it's looking like maybe 13, 12. I don't want to make it too large. I think I'll go with 12. 12 will look good. And let's select that and then come up to Object, Path, and then Outline Stroke. You see what it did? It made that stroke into something that is now, well, it has outlines around it, and a fill color and a stroke color on the inside and then on the outside as well. And we're going to do that to this whole group as well. We're going to go to Object, Path, Outline Stroke. So they overlap, which is good. We want that. And so this is highlighted. This section, the lines in the star, are active. And now let's select our border and make that active so they're both active. And now we're going to use something in our Pathfinder function so we can join it all together as one path. That's going to get carved out on the machine. So let's come over here to our Pathfinder function. I have that open in a separate window. If you don't, you can come up here to your window function up here and just make sure Pathfinder's checked, and it'll open it up for you. And it's the unite function is what you're looking for. So let's go ahead and select all those and just hit unite. And that just unites them all, so it's just one path. And it places them all on one layer at that point too. So you can call it whatever you want. I'll just call it border/lines. And there's nothing on this layer any longer, so we can actually delete it. So the only thing left on here is the text. And I happen to know that this text right here is what they call quaint Gothic. So if this is something that you wanted to create, you could go out on the internet and get the quaint Gothic text. There's a lot of sources out there where you can obtain it. Unfortunately, it's not an Adobe font, so you won't get it for free if you have the Adobe products. So yeah, so let's go ahead and hit our text function. Let's create a new layer over here first and call it text. And let's come over here and let's get our quaint Gothic, and let's type in caps ARIZONA. And let's start making that bigger. And as you can see, that the A of the arrows of the quaint Gothic doesn't quite match this ending A over here, so we're going to have to do a little finagling with the text, and I'll explain how we do that here in a second. So we're going to continue to make this larger to where the size of the text matches the size on the patch. So I'm going to slide it over with my arrow key a little bit. Okay. Now what I'm going to do with that text selected, I'm going to come up here to type. I'm going to hit create outlines. Now it's all grouped right now as one group, so I'm going to hold down Shift Control G to ungroup that, and then I'm just going to select just the A, and I'm going to hit right click on my keyboard, transform and reflect, just to turn that A around. I'm going to hit OK, because that's the direction we wanted to go with it on the vertical plane. And I'm going to make sure it's selected, and I'm just going to come over with the keyboard and just make sure that A is positioned over the background where I wanted it. And then the text that we need to do down here is, I think it's called sans source. Yeah, sans source variable. It was one of the recent ones I used. So we'll go ahead and use it. And let's go ahead and type our text button. And with some of these, you may or may not get close, or you may only get as close as you can, and that's fine. If you can get close and it looks 99.9% there, then that's fine. You could probably get away without having to go out and purchase a font. So, and if you look closely, you'll see that this isn't the exact font for this image, but we're going to go ahead and use it anyway. So, whoops, I got my caps lock on, and it's way too big, so let's bring that down to about a 72. department. All right, and we're going to do this in 3 lines. I want to make this bold. And maybe semi-bold. When I make this decision about what weight text I want to use, I'm looking at the thickness, like the thickness of the T. So let's get it up to size first and see how it looks. Get it to where it needs to be. And when I say get it up to size, I want the top of this T to match the top of this T. So, and you'll just have to, whoops, and the bottom of the text to match the bottom of the text. So you'll just have to play with it a little bit until you get it close to where you want it. So that's the proper height of this text. Now you can see it's way too wide, so we need to adjust it a little bit. So number of ways we can do that. I like to use this horizontal scale function, or rather this track it first, just to bring them closer together. Well, before I do that, I'm thinking that this needs to be bold. Yeah, I like the bold a little bit better for this. So we're going to go with bold, and I'm going to set the tracking on this. Point, that's a little, is that okay? No, between, now if I leave it at 0.75, you can see what's going on here between the R and the T and the A and the R. We're getting some overlap, and I don't like that. So let's go back to semi-bold with that tracking and see what it looks like. No, we're still getting the same problem. So I think by keeping it bold, and let's take that tracking off, and let's play around with the horizontal scale and see what happens. I like that much better. So our spacing between our A, R, and T is the way it should be. Okay, so our next line, so let's leave all those parameters just the way they are, and let's type the next line, which is of public and what we'll do is let's get as close as we can to this, and then create our last line, which is simply the word, whoops, safety. Right. Now you can see this, like I was saying before, you can see this may not be the exact font, and you could explore a little further on your computer and go through all your fonts, and maybe you'll get the correct one if you have it installed on your system, or if you want to do a screen capture and go out on the internet and look. But you can see the C doesn't line up perfectly and the S doesn't line up perfectly. But for the most part, or for all intents and purposes, this will be fine for this project. Only you're going to know. So just make sure you're satisfied, and as long as you're satisfied with your work, then you're good to go. So let's go ahead and take these lines of text and let's go ahead and align them. And let's regroup this one. Control G. Let's select all this text. And let's shut the color off. Let's give the outline a color. And let's drop the stroke down to 0.25. Now for this one, for this group, let's do the same. We're going to shut the interior color off. We'll give the outside a color and make the stroke 0.25. So let's turn our original layer off. So let's take a look at see what's going on with this font. You can see that the creator of this font, for whatever reason, some of the fonts out there are like this, and they're not joined up. This needs to be fixed, and I don't know why that is with some fonts. Some fonts are already completed, but some fonts aren't. Excuse me. So what we'll go ahead and do in order to fix this is we'll grab this and we'll go ahead and hit our Unite button. Whoops. Let's hit Type, Create Outlines. Now we should be able to do it. There we go. So we've created solid letters now in those words, and it looks much better. So that, my friends, is our patch that we're going to put on this flag. So in the next video, we will go ahead and jump back into VCarve Pro, and I will show you the badge that we've created. And along with the badge and this patch, we will bring that into our VCarve Pro project and get some tool paths ready so we can carve it on the machine. So we'll see you in video number 3. I would request of you guys, if I can make a simple request, if you are liking this series and you would like to see more content, let me know in the comments. Drop down, let me know. Please consider subscribing to my channel and liking the videos. It really does good with the YouTube algorithms, and it helps me out, and I would greatly appreciate it. That would be awesome. So let's get ready to jump back into the project, and we'll go to video number 3. So go ahead and take a break, grab a Mountain Dew or a cup of coffee, whatever your flavor is, and we'll see you in the next video.